Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zieks.
Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with the rising power in the Far East. The accused in the dock today is a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Soseki Natsume. And while our country has extended this foreign student the warmest of welcome, regrettably, the kindness had not been returned. In fact, this student is accused of a most sinister act. Of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. And that's crime. I'll tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are.
From bitter experience of 2 days ago.
I remember it like it was yesterday. Just look at that shallow complexion and short stature. He's the one of those dreadful Japanese.
Go on, let's get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Hey, sorry, didn't quite catch that.
I love him so much. He's my favorite. It's like the Beppa of this. Pray, forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hallowed chalice here in this great chamber. Allow me to call the first witness to the stand.
Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please.
Let it be Beppo. It's the inspector. Fine, it's fish and chips guy.
Well, yeah, they have to give the basic stuff like Gumshoe does, or Hosonaga.
Gumshoe. He's the Hosonaga of the series.
He's the Hosashu. Gumsonaga.
Gumsonaga. I like Gumsonaga better.
Your name?
Your name and occupation, please.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard.
Just sets his fish on the floor. Just like, would you please summarize the event of the case for the court, Inspector?
The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green.
What?
What? She looks like an olive.
The name?
Olive green is the color of shirt that she's wearing.
Yeah. That's it. It's a color.
Great. Great.
I beg your pardon, Inspector. Thought to be.
Imagine being named olive green, like born and named that, and then growing up and just being like, you know what, I'm just gonna wear olive green.
That's just the color. I was born to wear olive green.
Yes, having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. Well, that was 3 days ago now, and she's been comatose ever since.
What? So they don't even know who she is. They don't even know who she is for sure. Yeah, that was really hard for him to read for some reason.
Comatose, I see. But her life is not in danger.
Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray, elaborate on the details, Inspector.
Dragon said, so we have an olive oil to the evil Popeye from earlier.
Oh, good! I'm glad that was the vibe, because that was the vibe I was trying to give, was evil Popeye.
Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at this street map.
Look at this street map!
Every time I see it, I take a nap.
Then have some fish and chips.
As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Brow Road, a wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles.
That's fine.
It had not long stopped snowing on the victim. Miss Green was walking down the street.
Yeah, Keyblade mentioned that earlier, that's evil Popeye.
Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we're unable to take a statement from her, of course.
Shouldn't you just wait till she's, like, regained consciousness to do the trial?
Yeah. She's like, oh no, I actually just slipped and fell on it.
It seems like an important testimony.
It's like, oops, we murdered a Japanese man thinking that he killed you.
Killed her?
Well.
I mean, they know we didn't kill her.
This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please.
What is the weapon that was used?
Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back.
It would have been so funny if it was the same knife from the other case.
It's in every case.
Yeah.
Even like poisoning case. Oh no, it's a knife. The knife was poisoned.
No, the knife made the poison. That at night, just like mortar and pestle.
Ouch! That big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now.
With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman.
Even the scragged-looking Seki-san, I believe. I suppose. I can't read.
A common or garden jackknife, I would say, rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence.
Jackknife.
Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume?
I assume you wanna...
Yeah. Flip it. Flip it real good. Oh, has a blunt tip. Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just at the tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing.
You're right. Well spotted, Mrs. Ada.
I wonder what could have happened to it. You know...
Yes. You don't think it could still be lodged in the victim, do you?
That's what I was gonna say. Oh dear, I do hope not. That sounds terribly painful. That can happen. That might be why she's in a coma.
It's like the Sleeping Beauty prick. It just has.
Well, yeah, but like if you get stabbed in like a certain part of your spine with it, you know, and it breaks and stays lodged in there, your body could just be like shutting down.
Body's just like, no, I don't like. Oh, I think this is a separate thing here.
Me no like.
Oh.
But
Okay, cool.
It's just a separate thing.
What we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it feels like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have anything much worth pinching, my lord.
Except her cheeks.
I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment toward the victim? I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim.
Yes!
If theft and grievance have been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that, in a total unjustified and heavy-handed way.
Objection!
Did he do that in the first case? I don't remember.
He did not. This guy just gets more and more ludicrous every time. Literally just 2 fingers goes, whap, throws it back into the gallery.
Probably nails somebody in the head.
There's wine everywhere. It's gonna get stinky and smelly and sticky. Somebody better get some napkins.
A little girl with glass in her eye now.
Oh, Mom, it's in my eye.
It's okay, honey. It's from the Reaper's wine battle. He does that all the time.
Grin and bear it, hun. Grin and bear it. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public
Oh yeah, it was uncorked too.
Yeah. But your words have soured its hallowed bouquet.
Like, it should have like a trail of wine if you just threw it like that. It's opened.
That would have been so funny. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here.
What? Should hit old bag's ancestor. You mean? Oh yeah, no, ancestor's the right word.
Yeah. It hit Oldbeck herself.
Yeah, young old. That was the little girl I was just mentioning, obviously.
Yeah, that's why it actually didn't fall in her eye. It fell down her trachea. That's where she got her telltale rasp from the trauma. Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nepalese student.
Yes, sir.
Good job, car. Ura sha.
As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him. Old books, you say? Yes, my lord. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident. Oh yes, I can see the books to which you're referring.
She looks like a little dumpling. She looks like a ball. She looks like a toy.
That's not nice to say about murder victims.
She wasn't murdered.
Not non-dead murder victims.
Non-dead murder victims.
I'll take that photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector.
Your Nipponese are you Nipponese are a spineless breed. Too cowardly to admit defeat. Denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Well,
Forgive me, loved one, Six, but the defendant is not denying everything, as she put it.
What are you doing, Mrs. Addo? Do go on.
Mr. Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, now you mention it. When we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what had all happened.
As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was, and just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there, so I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings.
Jeez, long flashbacks.
A green overcoat?
Well, that's exactly what the woman in the print is wearing.
My, a photographic print in full color. What will the world come up with next?
The defendant did nothing more than admit he fled the scene of the terrifying incident. That does not mean he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back.
There was nobody else at the time. Just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there was no one else, nobody else who could have possibly stabbed the woman. A fact that the accused concedes.
I think... it seems this cross-examination can prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please.
Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance.
Roll credits. Turn it up.
Cross-examination. Mr. Natsume's arrest.
Bum, 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 bum.
Hold it!
A light fog, you say?
Well, late for London. You see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much further, though.
That's light, is it?
Around these parts, yes. Not something I expect for a Japanese fellow like yourself to know, of course.
I've heard that London is famous for its fog. In my country, people usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance.
How quaint.
Yes, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticize. I expect you appreciate it.
I see.
It's this time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm. Indeed, the other day I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling.
Ugh, Suzato-san, I should definitely remember to stop, look, and listen.
However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. A fact no doubt lamented by the accused.
Hold it!
How are you able to state that with any certainty?
Quite simply, my learned friend, because that is what the witnesses to this crime have told us.
Yes, Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he?
That's right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard.
That is correct, ma'am.
Then we must hear the testimony.
The prosecution will, of course, call them to the stand should it be necessary.
But wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen.
I'm unaware of the situation on your tiny island of the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by gas streetlights.
Ah,
The prosecution believes there would be ample light by which to witness the crime.
Quite. Here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness.
which means we really need to hear those witness statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to.
It seems the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with the testimony, Inspector.
The blue victim stepped behind, collapsed. From behind, you say?
That's right, as you can see from this print. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. And you say this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in critical condition, comatose, no less. I'm afraid so, my lord, yes. She's being treated at Bart's. I was hopeful she'd come round before the trial started so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be. Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own accounts of events.
The luck is on our client's side, it seems.
On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky.
Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly white eyes, I'm afraid.
Ugh.
Hold it!
Mr. Natsume's belongings,
I think you'll find it's already there in the photographic print of the crime scene. Yes, 3 books on the floor. That's right, my lord. Second-hand books they were. Irreparably damaged or fallen in the snow, of course.
The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand. Which means his other hand could have been free to wield a knife, for example. He's very clever, isn't he?
What do you mean?
He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsume had his hands full with his books. He managed to close the one avenue of escape we might have had before we even knew it was there.
You mean to say the defendant was holding his belongings and he thrust the knife into the woman's back? That must be what happened, my lord, yes. There's been a number of old books here, yeah.
The defendant apparently visits a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis.
Yes, I understand. A shop full of old English literature.
I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention.
The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with musty old books.
Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector?
Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid. The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodging is the place here, Bourbon Books. Little place in the corner of Brow Road and Mearsham Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Brow Road at the opposite end. Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. Something like this.
Map updated.
Wow.
Yes, I concur with the conclusion, Inspector. The defender would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop.
Naruhodo. I think what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance.
Yes, I agree. Most important point that the inspector just made being...
What was the most important point?
The location?
Was it location?
I mean, I don't think the name was important, and the stock wasn't very important.
Are you sure?
I mean, let's go back. Maybe I missed something.
History or court record?
Yeah, history. Okay. Okay, right there. The closest second-hand shop is Bourbon Books. Little place to the corner of Briar Road and Mearsham Street. The accused is living on the other side on the opposite end. Okay. I guess court records? It's the receipt from a different store? Is that what it is? Your books, yeah, so that's what it is. Yeah, so it's the name of the store. I needed to look at the court records anyways to remember that. Oof.
Yeah, that's why I kind of was questioning to like look at things.
Yeah.
Inspector Gregson, may I ask for you a favor?
What?
Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please?
I love that they have to.
I believe it may be of vital importance.
Maybe.
Oh, well, you know. I mean, yes. It could be a very important clue.
Oh, well, you know, I have to,
Well, not that I can see it being of any great significance. But please revise your testimony accordingly, Mr. Inspector.
It's so funny the roundabout way that it's just...
Yes, sir, my lord.
Whatever you say. I mean, because
Like, they-
it's to be part of the... To address it has to be part of the testimony.
Well, yeah, I know. It's so funny that they couldn't just, like, make it part of that question.
Could the man be any more sardonic? Sardonic?
Oh,
What?
that's a contradiction.
Should I present?
What's up, Bourbon Books? Present the receipt. Haha! In your face. My client's innocent. Boom. Mic drop. Let's go home.
If you could just stop there, Inspector Gregson.
What is it, sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know.
That's a receipt we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident, and details the purchase of 3 second-hand books. Dragon's like, here's the receipts. Although he
Here's
spelled
the
receipts
receipt.
wrong twice and had to keep fixing it. But
Here's the receipts.
Recipits.
Recipits.
Oh, it was recipits twice. Recipits, receipts.
Show me the receipts. Show me the
And
recipe.
you found it in the accused room, did you?
Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it.
Go on.
This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books.
Your books. Y-O-R-E, I presume.
Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books.
Eh? What? Inspector, do you know this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books, another second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that... Well, it's such a small place, I didn't think the accused had known about it.
But in fact, it is the bookshop which the defendant visited on that day in question. And this receipt proves it.
Objection!
Yes. For what difference it makes. Whatever the man purchases in wherever the man purchases musty terms, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
I disagree. I mean, after all,
I have a sheet here, if that might help.
yes, thank you. Have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact that it was actually another bookshop, Your Books, it may very well turn out to be he wouldn't have passed that location after all.
Would that be true? My. It rather depends on whether this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility.
Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said? Absolutely, it absolutely could be right. It could be right.
It could be right.
Inspector Gregg said, what is this Your Books establishment?
And it's just like right next to it.
Well, obviously we looked into that. It turns out that Your Books is just here on the next corner of Mearsham Street, going east.
And there you have it, as you can clearly see now. Oh.
My Lord Nepenthes friend is obviously in training to be a clown. The way he regales us with such witticisms. To your future career in the circus. You put that glass down now or I'll put you down.
We'll put it down for you.
Oh, I'll put it down for you.
I didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here you go. If the accused is coming home from Your Books instead of Bourbon Books, there's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed.
That's not even a question. Like,
Yes, thank you, Inspector.
Natsume already said that he was walking next to her.
Listen, we're trying to stop it however we can.
Including just lying?
We're bringing up possibilities.
Just because something is possible, there's already facts that disprove it. It was possible he didn't walk by. I know he said he walked by. But it's possible he didn't. Case closed. Bye.
It was dark, he's confused, he's clearly crazy.
Lord.
Insanity plea.
Allow me to reiterate for my learned, if somewhat slow, Nipponese friend. Yikes. Whatever the man purchases, wherever the man purchases musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
Ugh. I love that he crushes the glass with so much force that the wine evaporates.
I expected you care for me. I don't trust it just you try.
What did I say? I've had enough of this now. Beg your pardon. Deeply sorry, but would you mind repeating that?
Do we know their names? Are we gonna know their names?
Who, the jury?
Yeah.
No, we never know the jury's names.
I need to know that old man's name. Mr. Naruto. We mustn't give up.
What do you mean?
If the prosecution's assertion is correct, the members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty.
Ah, she's absolutely right.
We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully.
The claim Saseki-san must have passed the location of the incident as way home from your books, but...
Yeah.
What?
A dog has apparated in front of me, and that surprised me. I'll cry with dropping my costume off.
Okay.
I need to switch into my costume before we go.
Okay.
That's fine. Raise an objection.
Let us know then when you gotta wrap up.
Yeah. I think as close to 7:30 as we possibly can.
The assertion is made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed.
Explain yourself, counsel.
Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from your books to the lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. If the defendant used these streets, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked.
Objection!
Yeah, he could have also gone in between the buildings. He doesn't have to walk through the streets. Talking back to a cloud is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that... that route is what is commonly referred to as the long way around.
Ah,
On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home?
well,
The answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime.
Objection!
yes, I've got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume what route he took home.
I've already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection.
That's right. As I said, the bloke seemed to spend his time wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or what route he took home.
I don't believe this!
I don't believe this. I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest that we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around this subject. Pray, what say you, insightful jurors?
But even if that is the case, the defense still...
Well, that was a fair play. Oh, I agree with Lovar Zich. Wholeheartedly and in every way.
What? I don't believe it. Does this mean...
We members of the jury are completely convinced now.
Very well. In that case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty!
Oh. Oh.
Guilty! Guilty!
Oh.
Guilty!
They have voices.
Only for when stuff like that's happening.
Did the first case also have voices?
Believe so when they all voted guilty. Unless it didn't happen all at once. It only does if it happens all at once.
That was so cute.
It would
I like
appear
it.
it would appear the jury's leaning is unanimous.
To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably. Mr. Naruto.
No, not yet. This isn't over yet. Still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of the scales the other way. I'll have to turn this around. Somehow.
Roll credits. Those are the eyes of Quarry, not yet willing to give up and die. So I presume you intend to wield your rights against this trial? Rights of the defense written into antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago.
Call it antiquated if you will. But it's the defense's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses.
Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman?
Of course we're ready. I'm glad this doesn't take place in America because dueling is still technically in the law as like a thing you can do. Phoenix, right? I assert the right to a duel. It's in the law. It's like, this is a parking ticket. What are you? No one must die.
To the death.
I'm all too familiar with the Japanese whippersnapper and his uncle's refusal to join his ally.
Very well, then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will each explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty.
Summation, examination, judicial findings. For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he? If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why it can only have been...
Hello? You cut out.
I
Uh-oh.
lost you for a second.
Yeah,
I'm
there
good.
you are.
I'm
You're back.
Did you get my line? I think I was.
We got like half of it.
If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why it could have only been the victim.
The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on the way back from the bookshop, not in winter.
So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful.
I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I got work to be doing.
Your books, yes. Nice shop there, but bourbon books, no, not worth a visit.
With only minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear.
When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink into the ground before his eyes.
Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already.
Oh dear, even when the judges appear convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now.
Why did he have to run away like that? And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is
What are you doing?
impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense?
What is it? Your wig? Maybe. Mr. Naruto, this is no time for grumbling. If you want to force the trial to continue...
Yes, I know. I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their minds. Well, 4 of them at least.
Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward.
You have the floor, Council. Begin your summation examination.
Yes, my lord.
Slap.
I just need to keep this trial going somehow, whatever it takes. Come on, Rinosuke, you can do it.
Whatever it takes.
I mean, honestly, I don't think we're getting through the summation examination in 4 minutes, so
Yeah, we could call it.
let me drop the save here.
Oh, pretty
And-
Japanese